our regularly scheduled special report. Just days away from final adjournment, we're looking back at some of the most controversial and impactful decisions of the legislative session.
From ethics reform to the defunding of Planned Parenthood to the state's response to the MU protests. We checked in with our local lawmakers to see where they stand on these important issues. ABC 17's Joe McLean has this special report from the Capitol.
Every year, this building sees impassioned arguments, innovative legislation, and significant controversy. Well, this year was no different. And tonight, we look at 5 of the most paramount questions our lawmakers had to face this session. Number 1, unrest at the University of Missouri. Last November, the MU campus was witness to the biggest student protest in decades, which led to the resignation of several system leaders.
It seemed like the more things that unfolded, the worse it got.
In the months that followed, many lawmakers were unsatisfied with the administration's handling of the fallout, spurring a call for millions in budget cutbacks.
That type of accountability and transparency on what they're actually doing is what led to all the frustration in the Capitol.
Anytime you give taxpayers money to an entity, you want to make sure that it's being spent wisely.
The House version of the budget included a more than $8.5 million spending decrease to the system. Despite amendments to reverse those cuts by Republican Representative Caleb Rowden, they were approved by the House.
It was purely vindictive. I mean, there was no financial necessity for it in the state budget.
When the bill made it to the Senate, however, much of the money was returned to the budget, including the university's performance funding.
I believe that we'll be on the right track with the university and get it back to the great asset that it is.
Because of the way the budget process works, the House never actually came to a clear up or down vote on the UM system budget cuts item. Number 2, the Planned Parenthood investigation. When a controversial video out of California leaked online that appears to show Planned Parenthood employees discussing the sale of fetal body parts, many Republican state lawmakers launched an investigation.
Obviously, we were going to look into that as the legislature, both from a public policy perspective and because Planned Parenthood is an entity that does get taxpayer or did get taxpayer dollars in the state of Missouri.
While the Attorney General of Missouri said the videos don't serve as proof of any wrongdoing, a special investigative committee was formed to make sure no such activities were happening anywhere in the state.
If we wouldn't have gone to the length that we did to get to that information, we would have never had those answers. So it was time well spent.
The effort led to a series of bills placing stricter regulations on the disposal of aborted fetuses.
I think it was the appropriate thing to do, that they should not be selling those baby parts to any entity. I was proud to vote yes on that legislation.
By the end of the budget process, Planned Parenthood's federal Medicaid reimbursement was cut out by the state as well.
So it's not funding Planned Parenthood, it's reimbursement for services. And under federal law, people can go wherever they want. So to get around that, the Missouri legislature has said we're going to take out the federal funding.
All of the votes involving Planned Parenthood funding and fetal tissue donation were cast along party lines, the Republicans voting in favor and the Democrats voting against them. Number 3, ethics reform at the Capitol. Near the end of last year's session, multiple legislators, including then Speaker of the House John Deal, left their positions amid allegations of inappropriate conduct. That, along with some of the nation's weakest ethics laws, some lawmakers say the Missouri Capitol was cast in an untrustworthy light.
The public thinks that we have an ethics problem here in Jefferson City. And if the public thinks it, whether or not it's true, we have an issue.
It sparked a massive push for ethics reform this session by the new leadership.
We, at the very beginning of session, said, there's several pieces to ethics legislation. We'd like to at least move the ball down the field by getting 1 or 2 of those types of pieces passed.
I think it's appropriate that we send a very strong message to voters of the state of Missouri that their vote counts and the people they send here are ethical.
Campaign finance, lobbying bans, and gift restrictions all came to the table with bipartisan support. But some lawmakers were more satisfied with the legislation than others.
Is it better than nothing? Okay, but it's not, to pretend that it's some sort of major reform is not correct.
What we did this year was a step. It was a small step, but I think that we're at least starting to fix some of the problems that are out there.
Satisfied or not, when it came time to vote, all of our local lawmakers were in favor of the 3 major ethics bills passed into law this session. Number 4, gun control and concealed carry laws. Every year there's strong debate over gun control at the Capitol, but amid increased gun violence around the country, including shootings in San Bernardino and on an Oregon college campus, the issue was examined this year in a new and vivid light.
Anytime we deal with people's rights to carry, we need to be very careful that we don't take away certain constitutional privileges and rights.
Missouri's concealed carry laws were at the forefront of the discussion.
Concealed carry is a very good thing that we have in our state.
Your Second Amendment right is no different than your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, freedom of exercise of religion. It's a very important right.
Several bills were filed this session, including one that would allow National Guard recruiters to carry guns and a bill that would legalize concealed weapons on college campuses.
We literally have had faculty from universities coming to us as elected officials saying they would support this. They think it's something that's needed.
While none of these bills made it to the governor's desk, the votes remained in line with party opinion. Democrats voting for stricter control of firearms and Republicans wanting them to remain accessible to law-abiding citizens. Number 5, religious exemptions. A bill that gained national attention and caused a 40-hour-long filibuster in the Missouri Senate was SJR 39. It would have allowed certain business owners in the wedding industry to refuse service to same-sex couples for religious reasons. This nearly a year after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled to allow same-sex marriage across the country.
What the court did with its opinion is create a whole lot of gray area that states are now going to have to figure out, how do you protect individual religious liberty while at the same time recognizing that the Supreme Court has issued an opinion that says that that is the law now in the United States.
Supporters claimed it would protect the religious freedom of business owners, while opponents called it legalized discrimination.
In the state of Missouri right now, somebody can be denied public accommodations, they can be kicked out of restaurants, they can be denied services, they can be fired simply based on their sexual orientation. There's no statewide protections for LGBT folks.
I don't think the issue goes away. I'm sure there'll still be more conversation as time moves forward.
The state Senate approved the bill, but it never made it to the House floor because of a tied vote in the Emerging Issues Committee. Republican Representative Caleb Rowden cast one of the votes against the measure. You can find all that voting information as well as links to other important decisions on our website, abc17news.com. Reporting at the Capitol, Joe McLean, ABC 17 News.
Great report there, Joe. The legislative session officially ends this Friday evening at 6.